Welcome to the AME Food Safety Show. Today's topic, how do you take fresh fruits and vegetables and make them acceptable for your human body to consume? That's my question. That's what we're going to address for the next few minutes. First slide. As we look for fresh fruits and vegetables, unless you're growing them yourselves, you're going to be buying them from a distributor, from a grocery store. Some people even buy them from farmers markets. Let's look at how we make our decisions and then what we do with those products after they're in our possession. Fresh fruits and vegetables are an important part of a healthy diet. That comes directly from the federal government's Food and Drug Administration. As we think about fresh fruits and vegetables, what's the biggest hazard to our bodies? As we look at protecting ourselves at all times. Remember the official inside the boxing match, and he looks at both of the boxers, and what does he tell them? Protect yourself at all times. And look over the rainbow for a beautiful world which you can make. Let's look at contamination. What is contamination when we look at fruits and vegetables? First thing I'm going to tell you is some of them you can readily see, others you will never see. Only an analytical chemist will tell you what's going on with that product. Next slide. As we think about purchasing fresh fruits and vegetables, it's not like buying it in a can or in a bag or in a container or in a bottle. What you're looking at is the end product of a very long series of events. Look down the grocery vegetable aisle. What do you see? Most of the times you see the best of all of the products that's been produced. But what you want to look for is something that has been contaminated, damaged with yeast and mold, or something that is something wrong with that product. On the right is an excellent example of a series of fresh vegetables which have been harmed, which should not be purchased or consumed. Don't buy bruised and damaged products. Why? Because that organism which you're buying has been produced and cared for improperly. Look for yeast and mold's damage. What is that? It's a dark spot. It's bruised. That bruise is dark as compared to the normal product. Try to keep your food separate, particularly when it's meat and vegetables. Why? There are certain contaminants, bacterial pathogens, which are normally associated with meat. Whether it's beef, chicken, poultry, whatever that meat product is, it'll be exposed to different forces, different bacterial organisms, as opposed to, and sometimes they're identical, fresh fruits and vegetables. Next slide. What you want to do when you care for that product, you've already selected it, it's what you wanted, you've done your visual inspection, now you want to store it. Nobody eats that fresh produce and fruit products immediately. What you do is you store them in a refrigerated area. Some of them are stored in refrigerators. Here's the challenge I have with refrigerators. I call them an ongoing biological experiment because you try to hold them as long as possible. Sometimes you leave the fresh vegetables, fresh fruit outside a refrigerated area so it'll ripen. What you need to do is to monitor that refrigerated space inside your homes for temperature. Remember in this program, I've often suggested to you to purchase a thermometer. Keep the refrigerator set at 40 degrees or below. Why? Because I will give you the reason in sort of a quiz, in sort of a strange way. When I audit a food facility, I always ask the owner or the manager of that facility, why do you keep this facility cold? I know you spend millions of dollars for the building design, like a giant refrigerator. Some of these are 200,000 square feet. Why do you spend money on mechanical equipment called heating, air conditioning, and ventilation? Why do you spend all the electricity? And I'm in California. We have some very high temperatures. Why do you keep it at a certain temperature? The right answer before the wrong answer. The right answer is to slow the growth of certain organisms, primarily E. coli and Salmonella. But Listeria loves the cold. The wrong answer is to keep the food fresh. That's the wrong answer. Why? We want to slow the growth of certain organisms. So you need to purchase a thermometer that's separate in the one that came in the refrigerator. You need to store the meat separately. We talked about those bacterial pathogens. And if you have longer than 3 or 4 days in that refrigerator, you need to clean out the entire refrigerator, clean out all the contents because it's more than likely all contaminated. Next slide. Keep that refrigerator, those surfaces clean. What does that mean? Remember I mentioned just a second ago, you got to clean everything out all the way down. You've got to take food out of the freezer. It doesn't stay in there for a year. If you brought listeria into that freezer, you've got to defrost that entire freezer. You need to clean it with a chemical. Disinfect the refrigerator periodically. That includes the freezer. Keep preparation surfaces spotless. That's the chopping boards, the knives, anything that you use to clean that product. Harmful bacteria will grow if you don't do that. Next slide. All right. Here's a little tricky part. A lot of people see a beautiful peach at the farmer's market, not thinking that 1,000 people probably touched that. Some people didn't wash their hands. Some people have bacterial pathogens growing underneath their fingernails. Some people might even have parasites on their bodies and they touch that product. The same one you bought and brought home. The best way to clean fresh fruits and vegetables is running water to clean it. Hold it underneath the water, the flowing water, and let the physical chemistry of the water break loose those pathogens. Particularly look for product contamination, dark spots. Look inside those stems. Look inside the ends. That's why people cut them off. When you prepare it for food, you cut off the leaves, the stems, anything that's not the product you're looking for. Microbes can be eliminated to these 2 steps. Next slide. All right. Look on the top right of this slide. Remember this lesson. Bacterial contaminants, these organisms, these microbes that you see on the top right is E. coli. There are 3,000 subspecies. There are about 7 which will harm you. We all know about E. coli 015787. Look in the one in the middle, Salmonella. Look in the one at the bottom, Listeria. There are many types of bacterial contaminants which will harm you. Put that product underneath the running water and clean out E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria. Clean the surfaces throughout the product that you're going to consume. Look for the stems, the crevices, the leaves. Let me tell you something about cantaloupe. The type of cantaloupe that was contained and contaminated killed 33 people, made hundreds sick recently. It was inside the netting, those little nooks and crannies on the outside of that cantaloupe, which contained the Listeria. That's where it thrived. Next slide. I think a beautiful purchase for anybody who's going to be preparing fruits and vegetables, it's what's called a veggie brush or a vegetable brush. Why? Because it gets inside those little nooks and crannies. Look at that potato. That's what we call them in Maine, a potato, not a potato, a potato. That person is using running water to scrape, scrub, and otherwise clean out all those nooks and crannies in the potato's eyes. Actually, it can grow from there. So the potato, just think of it as a seed, a giant seed, and inside there's dirt, bacteria, anything, yeast and molds that could have grown. So under running water, use that brush to scrub out the dirt, the bacteria, yeast, and mold. Keep the brush sanitized. If you don't, you're just cross-contaminating everything else you use it for, just sitting out in the open collecting. If it's wet, when you keep it starred, it's going to attract bacteria rather than clean it off. Next slide. These are my suggestions. I hope that you find them helpful to you to keep the younger children, the older people, anybody with a bacterial resistance challenge, somebody who's on medication, to keep those individuals away from bacteria. They're here, they're vulnerable, bacteria will enter, and it'll kill them or harm them substantially. Look at the grocery store offering. Select what you think is the best non-damaged product. Some products are behind glass doors. That's to keep them away from E. coli and Salmonella. If you see something on sale that's a vegetable, wonder why. Why is it on sale? Select safe fruits and vegetables. It shouldn't be a big challenge. Bag separately from meats. You want to bag all of your vegetables so you get them home. Why? Because as you're walking around the grocery store, you may be starting to collect them. You walk by the meat department. As you walk by a clerk that's cutting open a cardboard box, there's a lot of bacteria in cardboard. Maintain clean, cool storage. We talked about the refrigerators. That's where we store them. If they're out in the open, your fruits and vegetables to ripen, check them every day. Look for spots. Immediately consume them after you feel they're ripe. Do some cleaning even then. And then thoroughly clean your plates, glasses, the cutting utensils, the cutting surfaces, the serving surfaces. If you bring something in with bacteria into your home, into your kitchen, you are really damaging and making harmful the environment where people live. Let me close by telling you this. Fresh fruits and vegetables have been found in cancer patients, in terminal patients, to actually increase their healthful recovery. There's something about something that's been cooked. It's wonderful to smell it. But to serve fresh fruits and vegetables is absolutely awesome. Let's look forward to the next presentation, and thank you for paying attention today.